Welcome everyone, I am Talk Custom, and today we've got a guest for the first time on this channel, and this is Kat Dillon. Kat, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kat. I work in TV, film, and commercial doing costume and wardrobe.
Excellent.
So,
cool.
yeah.
So what are we going to do today?
Today we're making yoga pants for
Okay.
me. I know you want to see yoga pants on you, but we're going to see them on me.
We're going to make yoga pants that are going to fit her.
Yeah.
I get a lot of requests to do female garments, which I've never done a video on, so this video is for all the women that have asked me to do something like that. So thank you for being part of this video, and we're going to teach everyone how to make some yoga pants right now.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Yep. Good. Okay, so we selected Simplicity Pattern 8561, and I believe that we chose pattern style D because it
Has pockets.
Right, it has pockets and it has this cool contrast on the back end. Also, it has a high waist, which is going to look really nice. All right, so what kind of fabrics are we going to be using for this project?
We're going to be working with a 2A stretch knit cotton for our primary fabric, and
Okay.
our contrast fabric is going to be a 4-way stretch spandex that's a little bit like a thin scuba fabric. So it has excellent structure.
Cool, so this should stretch and fit nicely. Something else I want to mention before we start cutting this out is the print on this is not perfectly in the center, so Kat is going to make sure she folds it on the symmetrical line of the print itself. When you're cutting this out, make sure that you cut it on the correct grain line so that everything fits properly when you're done. All right, so we've already cut out and made our pattern. If you do not know how to read a pattern, please watch our video on how to read and make your own pattern. Otherwise, ours is already cut out.
Since this is our primary fabric, we're going to first cut out our primary fabric pieces and our accent panels.
All right, now because the print on this fabric is not perfectly centered when you fold it in half, we're gonna do that ourselves. So I'm just putting some rulers here, and Kat, do you mind holding this ruler so it doesn't fall off the table? I'm just gonna fold this, and...
Do you want me to swipe the rulers out?
Actually, yeah, please. So that should be good there. Okay. Now, because you can kind of see through the fabric, we can tell where it's symmetrical. So all we want to do is line this up, and you probably can't see it, but there is a crease where it's supposed to be folded in half, but that's not going to match up with our pattern. So we're not going to iron this because we don't want to put a crease there, but we want this to be symmetrical when it's done. So Kat and I are taking our time making sure that all of the print matches up perfectly symmetrical, because we want to make sure that the pockets look really good when they're done. Because these pants are going to be Kat's, I'm going to let her decide how she wants her print to look on her pants. So go ahead and lay these out however you want them to look when it's done.
Okay. Yeah, this is good. I mean, because then there's going to be pockets and all that anyways.
Okay. Here you go.
Okay. So I've laid down the pattern on the fabric, being careful to make sure that my pattern is going to match on a horizontal line around the pant leg. And I'm going to cut it out with a rotary tool now.
Cool. All right, so we're done with our primary fabric, and now we're going to cut out our contrast with our spandex here.
All right, so we've laid out our contrast fabric. Now we're going to cut out the contrast pieces.
Yep, and we have it laid out the other way, so it's going to stretch this way. So we're going to lay our panels going like this. Also, it's important to note that there are two pieces that say front and back yoke. Those are your waistbands. I don't know why they call them yokes on this, but these we will cut on a fold line because that's what it wants us to do. So we're going to put this right up against the fold line. We've talked about that in some previous tutorials, so we're going to make sure that we do that. Kat is a pro, everybody, in case you guys didn't know that. She does not want any help. All right. Now we have all of our panels cut out, and we are going to do this step by step by the pattern. We're not going to show every single step on the page, but we are going to show you in order how we're going to put this together. All right, so the first step of this says we're going to put our pocket binding or pocket lining on this edge of panel 12. So what we're going to do is lay these on an ironing board, and we're just going to turn this about a 1/4 inch and press just one side. It doesn't matter which side, just press one side with your iron all the way from one edge to the other. All right, so the way this works with our pocket linings is we are going to lay out right side facing up on panel 12 here. And actually, you did a good job of cutting this so that they're symmetrical, which is great. Okay, so what we want to do now is we're going to take the edge that's not pressed over and we're going to line it up with this raw edge here. If you need to stretch the fabric along this edge, that's fine. And we're going to stitch this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way up there. So here, you do one, I'll do the other. Okay, so Kat did a great job, and as I'm pinning this, I'm just kind of making sure that the raw edges line up as it stretches before I put my pin in place, and then we should be good to go. So we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to do a stretch stitch. On every stitch we do is going to be a stretch stitch, so either a tight zigzag or the lightning bolt stitch, whichever you want, and we're going to just stitch at a 1/2 inch seam allowance on both of these here.
You're also going to want to stretch it a little bit as you're sewing so that you make sure you can still stretch it when you're done.
Yep. Now I don't think I've done a lot of knits on my videos, so I've got this set to a lightning bolt or a zigzag stretch stitch here. And what I'm going to do is I want to start my first stitch on the fabric. You will not be able to back stitch with this. And at about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, we're just going to follow this all the way across, and I'm going to kind of stretch this a little bit just so that everything lays flush on this raw edge here. Okay. All right, so we have one done, and we're just going to do the other side the same way.
So now that Talk has finished the stretch stitch, we're going to take this with the folded side, turn it in, and press it flat so that we have a nice clean edge.
Okay. And then on the other side, you should just see the primary fabric. Okay, so Kat just pressed this very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a stretch stitch right on this edge of the fabric all the way up so that it is holding this lining in place.
All right, now that this is stitched into place, we're going to press it again to give it a nice flatter edge. The spandex is fighting us a little bit, but once it's all put together, it'll lay flat.
All right, now Kat did a fabulous job pattern matching. As you can see, these are perfectly symmetrical, and we've got a nice pressed pocket edge. So now we've got our, I think they call these the pocket and back yokes, which is going to wrap around kind of the back end of your body. So we're going to lay panel 14 down, and then this should meet up with the top right corner here. And then we're going to follow this right edge down on this piece. Actually, if you want to do that, I'll do the other one. So you should have something that looks like this. Now we are going to pin this inside edge here, the long edge, all the way from the top down to where the pocket ends, which is right here, okay? So now we're gonna baste this from here to the pocket and then from here to there. Okay, so Kat did a good job of basting these into place, which is excellent. We're not gonna show any more of the stitch work because I think you guys get it at this point. So our next step, at the bottom of our pocket here, we need to do a stretch top stitch across so that nothing falls through the bottom of your pocket. So we're just gonna do a quick stitch across and make sure you use a stretch stitch for this.
If you look closely, you can see where Talk fantastically top stitched a stretch stitch across this right here where the pocket ends on the inside so that when you put your cell phone or whatever inside, it doesn't fall through. We're just going to show you one leg so that you can see it all laid out. The other side will be exactly the same but mirrored.
Okay.
So I have pieces 11, 12, and 15. This is the pocket we just put together, and we are going to pin it right sides together along this curved edge and stitch it with a stretch stitch.
Okay.
Because we're going to be pinning on a curved, stretchy line, you're going to want to pay attention to your notches that they match up.
Right, okay, so you're
So,
putting right sides together.
I'm putting
So
right sides, yeah.
these are going to curve in opposite directions. So this is a little tricky at the top part here, but just take it slow and be patient, you'll get through it. So she just pinned these two notches together, and I'm going to very carefully match up the raw edges here until we come up to the edge at the top. Can you pull that? Yeah, thank you. Here, I'll just do this first, and then I got another one on deck, and then bam. So we have our top corner pinned, which looks really nice, and the next few pins are kind of tough as it curves, but again, just be very patient and make sure that your raw edges match up properly, like Kat is doing right here.
So once we have this side pinned, just make sure it lays flat and matches up. And we have a little extra length on one of our pattern pieces because we decided to go for a capri style. So we will trim that after stitching it down.
Okay, so I just pinned my half of these pant legs, and I've got the same thing here. So we're gonna go ahead and stitch these all the way up to the top here. And make sure you do a stretch stitch for this entire stitch. Okay, so Kat did our stitching on this, and I'm just going to take all the pins out, and then we're going to serge this whole edge right here. You don't have to serge it if you don't have a serger, because spandex and knit fabric will not fray, but if you want it to look nice and pretty on the inside, pull out your overlock machine and serge that whole seam there.
As you can see, Tak put down a very festive rainbow serged edge on the inside of this. So now we can go ahead and attach the next piece. Now we're going to attach piece 11. I'm going to line it up right sides together to pin it down the long edge.
Okay.
Now that I've pinned the outside edge, I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and stitch it with a stretch stitch. All right, now that I've stitched this outer edge, Tak is going to serge it. You can see what all three pieces look like together.
All right, so we have one of our pant legs done. Everything is stitched and serged now, which looks great. It's okay if you see a little bit of puckering because your body will fill up the pants and it will kind of stretch to your body. At the bottom here, we can see a little bit of extra fabric. So we are going to hem this at the end, but I'm just going to cut the extra across so that it matches up with the other side. It's okay if it's not perfectly even now, because when we hem it, we will make sure it's nice and straight. And actually, this is a little bit more curved than I want it to be, so I'm just going to kind of follow the angle that this is creating and just go straight across so that when we do hem it, it's nice and flat.
All right, now that we have our three panels assembled, we're going to do the inseam, which is these two seams right here. So we will put right sides together, line it up, and pin down the inseam, stitching it with a stretch stitch.
Okay, so Kat just did the inseam stitch, and now we're just going to overlock or serge these, and then we are going to be all done with both of our pant legs. Okay, our next step is 14 and 15. Now, the first time I ever saw this, I was wildly confused. So we're going to try to make this very simple for you guys so you can understand how to do this. So what this picture says is it wants us to put one pant leg inside the other. Now, one is going to be right side out, and the other is going to be inside out. And we're going to match up the right sides, and we're going to be doing the inside crotch seam here next. So we're going to show you how that looks with the actual fabric. All right, now the way this works when we're actually working with the fabric is we're going to take one of our pant legs and we're going to turn it right side out like this. So you should see the pretty side of the fabric. All right, so now we've got one pant leg that's right side out and one pant leg that's inside out. So what we want to do is we want to take the one that's right side out, where you can see the correct side of the fabric, and we're going to put it inside the one that's inside out. I really hope that makes sense. There's no simpler way to say it. I'm going to pull this down so the ankles match up at the bottom. And then we are going to kind of follow this up so that these are even. Now what we're looking to do, it might be kind of confusing to see this on camera, but I'm doing my best here, is we're going to find our inseam at the top of one of our pant legs, and we're going to match it up with the inseam at the top of our other pant leg. Okay? Okay, now before I pin this, it's very, very important that you do your best to get, hopefully you can see these two seams. I want to get these perfectly matched up so that when we end up sewing this, you get a perfect four-way intersection seam at the bottom crotch part of the pants. Okay, so we've got our center crotch. Now I'm going to follow up the contrast side of the fabric, and this is where our 3 notches are here. Then we're going to pin there. And then next there's the seam where the yokes come together, so we're going to pin those together so they're flush. And then we're just going to pin the top where the pants come together at the outside seams. All right, so here we are at the center middle again, and we're going to go up the other side the same way that we just did the other side. And this one's a little bit easier because this is the front of the pants. So I'm just going to start by pinning the tops. And then I'm just going to make sure these raw edges here are even with each other. Kind of stretch it a little bit, even out the fabric. Pin it right in the middle. Then just a couple more pins and we are ready to stitch this and serge it.
So I'm going to go ahead and stitch the crotch seam with a zigzag stretch stitch. I'm going to start at the front and work my way around the back along the curve.
Okay.
Notice how I'm pulling the fabric tight at the back and keeping it straight in the front to keep everything in line, nice and smooth. You want to make sure that you take your time when you go around curves so that you get a nice clean seam allowance all the way around. Especially on something like a yoga pant, if you get off track, you may end up with a weird pucker. We finished stitching the crotch stitch. One leg is still inside the other leg. That's why you only see one pant leg here. I'm going to go ahead and take out the pins, and then we can serge this edge, and we will pull the other leg out and see what it looks like. I've serged the crotch stitch, so now I'm going to pull the leg outside of the other leg.
All right.
And then turn it right side out. So look at it.
Excellent. So now we can hold it up and see that they look like tiny little pants, which they are to me because I'm kind of tall.
They're
But
not tiny.
I think they look great, and the pockets are good. So now we just have to do the waistband and hem the bottoms, and we're all done.
Yes.
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right, so we've got our front and back yokes, as they call them, otherwise known as the waistband panels. And so what we want to do is put right sides together. Now, one of these is a little bit longer than the other, which is normal. So they're not going to be the exact same size. Actually, the smaller piece is the part that goes in the back. The larger piece goes in the front. So all I want to do is match up the notches that we have right here. And we're going to pin this whole edge on the left together. And now we are going to just pull this so that these edges are even, and then just pin this side. All right, so now we're going to just stitch up each side at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we should be good to go with this.
So we've stitched the sides together. We're not going to serge these edges. I'm going to go ahead and take the pins out, and we are going to press this folded down so that we have a nice clean edge for the fold of the top of the band. Before we do that, we're going to press the seams open. That way we can have a nice clean edge on the sides, and when it folds down, the seams will be butterflied open together like that. Now I'm going to fold it about halfway, lining up my edges and lining up my seams on the outside and inside. Nice clean edge over the top of the waistband.
All right, now for this part, to get our waistband onto the pants, we are going to put the pants through the waistband. If you've ever done the cuff on a shirt or a hoodie or anything like that, it works the same exact way. All right, so once you've got your pants inside the waistband, you want the raw edge of the waistband at the top and the raw edge of your pants at the top. So I'm going to find my first notch in the back right here, and we're going to pin that together. All right, now here's the other notch in the back part of the pants. We're going to pin that. Okay, so between these two pins, I'm going to pull these tight so that we can find our center. We will pin the center back of our pants to the waistband. All right, now on the front part of the pants, there is a notch on the waistband that Kat is going to show you right there. So that is going to match up with the seam on the front parts of the pants right there. So that's where the pocket comes together. Okay, so match up your waistband notches with that seam right there.
There you go.
All right, so Kat pinned the two notches here, and then she just pulled it tight and put one in the center. And if you want, just to be thorough, you can kind of stretch it out and put some more pins in there just to make sure that everything is flush all the way around the raw edges. Okay, so we've got this pinned all the way around. Your pants should be on the inside and the waistband should be on the outside. All of our notches match up. Now we're just going to stitch all the way around with a stretch stitch at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance.
Now I'm going to take the pin out and we are going to serge around the band. Alright, so now your pants should look like this. We're going to flip up the band and see what they look like all put together.
Perfect. Okay.
Now we have all of our pieces. We're going to decide where we want to hem the bottom of the leg.
Now, as we were looking at our pants, we were getting ready to do our hems, and we noticed that our right pant leg is about an inch longer than the other side. So we are going to even these up so that we can get a nice even hem.
All right, so I'm going to measure them by their inseam. I'm starting at the inner seam of the crotch, and I'm going to go down to the end. This leg is 23¼ inches. Okay, that one's 24 inches. Okay. All right, so we're going to take 1 inch off of the leg that's too long.
Okay, so we'll even that up, and then we'll get ready to do our hem.
So I think we figured out that it was like 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to line up that with my quilter's ruler like this.
Cut straight across the bottom, and then now those should be even.
Ta-da! Now we can hem the bottoms. We're going to serge the end so that it has a nice clean serged end. Turn it up 1 inch and top stitch that with a stretch stitch. Now that we have our serged edges, I'm going to turn this inside out so that I can turn up a 1 inch hem.
So since Kat pressed her bottom hem into place, it's actually going to be easier for me to stitch this if it is right side out. So I'm going to turn our pant legs so they're right side out. So now I can clearly see on the inside where that hem is. I'm going to match up my needle with our serged edge of our hem, and then we're going to do a stretch stitch all the way around. Okay, so the pants are now completely done. The waistband looks great. We've got both pockets, which look very nice. So, are you ready to try these on?
I'm ready. Let's see how they look.
Let's do it. Okay, so we've got Kat trying on her brand new yoga pants. How do they feel? How do they fit?
They feel amazing. They fit really well. They have pockets, which I love.
Okay, excellent.
Stretchy.
Right. Do you like to feel the fabric?
Yeah.
I like that pose. Maybe we see the back, please. Okay. I like the contrast. I like the design of that. That looks really good. Cool. So overall, I mean, I know you're a very experienced tailor and seamstress, but how was this project, having never made this pattern before?
It was excellent. I think that the pattern was made really well. It takes a lot of fit into consideration. And I like that it's stretchy, I like that it's high-waisted, so I definitely recommend this pattern.
Cool. Very nice. Well, thank you so much for doing this with us, and we are going to wrap this up right now.
Excellent.
All right, so we are all done with our yoga pants, and you've got stretch yoga pants, and I've got stretch denim jeans that I made, which I feel really good about these.
Oh, yeah.
But I sincerely want to thank you for being on my channel. This was a lot of fun working with you. Please follow Kat Dillon. Can you tell people where to find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at Kat Dillon Design, Kat with a C. And yeah, everything is Kat Dillon Design. CatDillonDesign.com, Kat Dillon Design on Instagram,
Yep.
Kat Dillon Design Twitter. It's all the same.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope this was helpful and that you guys end up with some amazing yoga pants. I really appreciate all of your support. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, we will see you in our next tutorial. Okay.
I don't know.
That's good. No, it's fine. And then I like fade to black and whatever. Okay, so now we...